Okay. In the article of what is the prevalence of ankle sprains, it says that more than 23,000 people per day encounter some sort of ankle injury or ankle sprain. Today I will be showing you how to treat like a mild ankle sprain using the RICE method. The RICE method is actually an acronym for Rest, Ice, Compress, Elevate, and I will be using ankle wrap, an ice pack, and a pillow for my props. If you encounter like bruising, you can't put weight on your foot, you can't really move it, you can follow these directions and you can use them. So the first two steps that they will tell you when you go to the doctors is to rest. And they want you to rest so that way when you're off of it, an ankle sprain is ligament damage in your foot. And the only way to help like reboot the function of your foot is to stay off it as much as possible, to ice it and compress for swelling reduction. So some ways that I treated my foot in a recent ankle injury were this. So you can put your foot. So if you're at home and you're just like eating dinner or something, you can pull up a chair. And I always found it more comfortable to have a pillow, just because sometimes the back of my foot would hurt and stuff. And then I'd also ice at the same time, and you just put the ice wherever you need it. Sometimes you can use a washcloth to put under it if your foot gets too cold. When you are icing, you will want to do it in intervals, so you want to go 20 on, 20 off, and then just keep doing that for a couple hours or however long you're up. You want to ice because it does help restrict the blood flow as much as possible, and that helps inflammation go down. The next two steps are compress and elevate. For elevation, you can use this too as well. I found it easier when I would go to bed. Just put your foot higher than your heart because that helps pull the fluids down in your foot. To compress your ankle, you can either use, this is just a basic ace bandage wrap, or you can, if you go to the doctor, you can get a more complex one if they prescribe it for you. But I'll just show you how to wrap. Yeah, you can take your shoe off. I find it more comfortable to have a sock on under any of my ankle wraps or braces. If you're in a boot, I would recommend a fuzzy sock. But so you always want to wrap from farthest from the heart up to the body. And so I would always start at my feet and just wrap. You don't want it too tight because you don't want to cut blood flow off, but you want to help compress it enough that the swelling will go down. And this is not pretty, but you get the main idea. And then you'll keep it elevated and icing if you want to keep doing that. The main three things that you will get from rest, ice, and compress and elevate are ligament restoration, overall movement, like improving on the function of it, and reduction of swelling. Now, I would recommend if you don't find that in 3 days you get better, I would consult a doctor because it's probably a lot worse. But in the future, you guys will maybe encounter an ankle roll, and I hope that you take something away from this and know how to treat an ankle sprain. So, thank you.